What if I told you that the Stations of the Cross, those 14 solemn moments you've seen in every Catholic church, were once a hidden, sacred ritual, forbidden from the public eye? What if I told you that this tradition, walked by millions every Lent, hides secrets so deep they've been buried for centuries? Today, we're pulling back the veil. Welcome to the secret origins of the Stations of the Cross, what you've never been told. Let's start at the beginning, or at least where most people think it begins. The Stations of the Cross commemorate Jesus Christ's final hours, his passion, from the moment he's condemned by Pontius Pilate to his burial in the tomb. 14 stops along the way. Simple, right? But here's the twist. This wasn't always a neat list of prayers you'd find framed on a church wall. The story of how we got here is wilder, messier, and more mysterious than you've ever imagined. Picture this. It's the 4th century. Jerusalem is under Roman rule, but Christianity is spreading like wildfire. Devout believers begin walking the actual path Jesus took to the cross, the Via Dolorosa, or Way of Sorrow. They're not reciting a script. They're retracing his steps, stopping at key spots to pray, to mourn, to connect with his suffering. This wasn't a church-sanctioned event. It was raw, personal, and dangerous. Being a Christian back then could get you killed. So these early stations were more like a secret code, a way to honor Christ without drawing too much attention. But then something remarkable happens. In 313 AD, Emperor Constantine legalizes Christianity. Suddenly, Jerusalem becomes a pilgrimage hotspot. By the 5th century, people from across the world are flocking to the Holy Land, desperate to walk where Jesus walked. The problem? Not everyone could make the trip. Wars, poverty, and distance kept most believers stuck at home. And that's where the real story begins. Fast forward to the Middle Ages. The Crusades are raging, and Jerusalem is a battleground. Pilgrimages are risky, sometimes impossible. So, the church gets creative. Enter the Franciscans, the keepers of Christ's story. Around the 13th century, they start building virtual pilgrimages right inside churches. They call them the Via Crucis, the Way of the Cross. Little wooden crosses, stone carvings, or painted scenes pop up in chapels across Europe, each one marking a moment of Jesus' passion. But here's the kicker. There's no standard list yet. Some places had 7 stations. Others had 30. One town might focus on Jesus falling 3 times, another might skip that entirely. It was chaos. Beautiful, sacred chaos. And the church wasn't fully on board. Some bishops thought it was too emotional, too uncontrolled. For a while, this practice was whispered about in private chapels, not shouted from the pulpits. So how did we land on 14? That's where the mystery deepens. By the 17th century, the Franciscans, backed by papal approval, standardized the list. They settle on 14 moments, blending scripture with tradition. But not all of them are in the Bible. Jesus falling 3 times? Veronica wiping his face. These come from ancient oral stories, apocryphal texts, and the imaginations of medieval mystics. The stations weren't just history. They were a living, evolving tapestry of faith. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. As the stations spread, they didn't stay the same. Every culture added its own flavor. In Spain, they became dramatic street processions. Think blood, tears, and theatrical flair. In the Philippines, some devotees literally nailed themselves to crosses, turning the stations into a visceral act of penance. Even the artwork shifted. French stations are delicate and somber, Mexican ones burst with color and emotion. And the symbols? They're loaded with secrets. Take Station 6, Veronica wiping Jesus' face. Her name isn't random, it's from vera icon, Latin for true image. It's a nod to the idea that Christ's suffering leaves a mark on us all. Or Station 9, The third fall. 3 isn't just a number, it's a whisperer of the Trinity, a hidden theological code. These aren't just stops on a journey, they're a map to something bigger. Today, the Stations of the Cross are a Lenten staple, walked, prayed, and cherished by millions. But beneath the familiarity lies a story of rebellion, adaptation, and mystery. From secret pilgrimages in a hostile empire to a global tradition shaped by human hands, the Stations remind us that faith isn't static, it evolves. So next time you pass those 14 markers on a church wall, ask yourself, what secrets are they still hiding? What stories have we yet to uncover?